Imagine being on a deserted island. Man and nature, nothing in between.
Just the soothing sounds of the waves, the distant call of a seagull, the rustling leaves in the wind.
You're alone, no distractions, no demands from the rest of the world.
At first it's scary, a bit unsettling even.
The fear of the unknown, the absence of familiarity. But then,
As days stretch into weeks, weeks into months, you find an inner music filling up the silence, a harmony you didn't know existed.
That's solitude, isn't it? It's not just about being alone, but finding yourself in that silence.
Exactly. It may seem like the loneliest of journeys at first, but in reality,
it's an exploration of the deepest, most intimate part of the self.
and as you adapt to this newfound isolation, you discover something profound.
The beauty of solitude and joy in the company of me.
All you need is one solitary traveler's tale to learn that there's a vast world within us.
One that we can embrace, explore, and make peace with. Maybe that's what finding calm in isolation really means. Solitude keeps you grounded, doesn't it? It's like being your own mirror.
True, Victoria. You see, in my own experiences of solitude, I've found myself more aware of my thoughts and feelings. It's like I found a unique rhythm to my own being.
That's intriguing, Mia. As someone quite in touch with their feelings, I understand how loneliness could accentuate that awareness. But I'm curious, Suyeon. Being alone in a foreign city, did the solitude there help you understand yourself better?
Interestingly, yes, Victoria. Initially, I felt lost. But soon, being alone in that city allowed me to explore deeper aspects of my personality. Freed from familiar settings, I was able to reevaluate my values and desires. I realized that I have a keen knack for resilience and adaptability.
That's fascinating, Suyeon. Considering your recovery process, would you say that solitude has played a significant part in it?
Absolutely, Mia. In those moments of solitude, I was forced to confront my fears and vulnerabilities. But it helped. It made me stronger and allowed me to heal from my past.
I think it's a mighty transformation, Suyeon. Solitude has a strange way of uncloaking emotions and traits that are often overshadowed in social settings. It's like finding your true self that resides beneath all the societal expectations and impressions.
And that's a powerful journey, isn't it? Self-discovery is a crucial aspect of our well-being. Moreover, it is through understanding oneself that we can embrace solitude in all its calmness and beauty.
Well said, Mia. And going through that journey, the company of me really did become more comforting than intimidating. It really is a journey towards authenticity.
Me time, we all crave it, yet the complete stillness of solitude can be a bit intimidating, can it?
Absolutely, Victoria. In fact, when we immerse ourselves in that silence, it can provide a very unique opportunity for self-reflection.
Yes, Mia. Solitude allows us to confront our thoughts and feelings, past and future, big and small. It's like a dance with your inner self, as you tune into that rhythm, that frequency which is uniquely yours.
So true, Victoria. I remember how in my moments of solitude, I began to unravel the complexities of my inner world, and consistently, those moments of unconscious discovery have been integral to my recovery.
Precisely, Suyeon. It's in isolation that we truly begin to listen, to hear what our hearts are whispering, what our minds are pondering. In a world where we are constantly accosted by noise, the true power of solitude is in its silence.
I think it's like being in a room full of mirrors. You start seeing reflections of yourself that were hidden in the hustle of everyday life.
And that's the key, isn't it? That's when you understand the depth of your potential and embrace the promise of your untapped strengths. It's solitude that unravels that unseen, yet completely you.
Solitude can be a balancing force. As much as we thrive in social scenarios, we humans are hardwired to need time alone. It's the equilibrium, the yin and yang of our social life. That's what the traveler on the island found. The balance.
Exactly, Mia. But extending on that, how can one achieve a mental balance just from being isolated?
The thing is, Victoria, solitude clears your mind. When you are alone, you're not bending to social norms or trying to meet expectations. It's just you and your thoughts. It gives you space to be pure and authentic.
What do you mean, pure and authentic, Mia?
Good question, Suyeon. When you're alone, you don't have to put on any masks. You can be your raw, unfiltered self. You become aware of your desires and insecurities, and that's when you can start addressing them.
I see. That actually ties in sleekly with what we were discussing earlier. It's in that state of solitude, when you're unmasked, that self-discovery happens.
Right, Victoria. But it's not just self-discovery, it's also about self-care. Solitude frees up your mind from external stressors. Hence, it's a perfect time for self-care.
What do you mean by self-care?
Well, Victoria, self-care encompasses a lot of things, from mental and emotional health to physical. It's about being more attuned to your mind and body.
Like nurturing a plant.
That's a great analogy, Suyeon. Yes, like nurturing a plant or like recharging a battery, you're replenishing your energy and resetting your mind. Solitude provides that space, that calm place, where you can just be, nurtured and charged up for life's battles.
Shifting our narrative, we delve into how solitude can fuel happiness.
Interestingly, just as the solitude of the island gave space to the traveler for self-discovery, can the solitude we find in our daily lives lead us towards happiness?
Quite possible, Suyeon. The absence of outside distractions and societal pressures can let one find joy and contentment in the simplest things, like taking care of plants or just soaking in the sun.
Yoga and meditation are great examples of therapist-recommended solo activities. They promote inner peace, a form of happiness that radiates from within. And trust me, the sense of tranquility and serenity that you experience in those moments is pure bliss.
Victoria, can you share more about that? How do yoga and meditation foster happiness in solitude?
Absolutely, Mia. When we're alone, it's easy to let our mind wander all over the place, right? But yoga and meditation, they help us focus our minds. They make us present. It's in these moments of solitude that we can truly connect with ourselves. And once you build this relationship with your own self, it's the most enriching source of happiness.
You know, aside from yoga and meditation, just reflecting in silence, feeling the heartbeat, noticing the breath, it's all part of solitude bringing inner contentment.
Suyeon, you nailed it. They say, silence is golden, solitude is priceless. It's a gift that allows us tranquil moments with ourselves. It's through regular practices of mindfulness that we can harness it and create our own oasis of calm and happiness.
Like an island of happiness in an ocean of chaos.
Let me take you back to when I first arrived in New York. I didn't know anyone on the streets or have familiar places to visit. The skyscrapers towering above made me feel infinitesimally small in this concrete wilderness. It was, to say the least, quite intimidating.
So how did you manage to find your way out of that initial feeling of intimidation?
It took me a while to realize it, but that very solitude I had dreaded became my source of creativity. It gave me the freedom to explore, discover my preferences, do things my own way. That anonymity, that isolation, it turned into a canvas for me to paint my life in ways I could never have even fathomed back in Seoul.
That's quite enlightening, Suyeon. How did you link this exploration to your happiness?
For one, I found solace in the freedom to express myself without fear of judgment. I found happiness in my art, in rollerblading down the quiet streets at dawn, in exploring the hidden nooks and crannies of the city. My solitude allowed me that space to be the most authentic version of myself.
That's a beautiful perception, Suyeon. Help us understand more about how this connection between solitude and happiness unfolded.
Being alone didn't necessarily mean being lonely. It gave me the quiet required to listen to my own thoughts, to understand myself better. That comprehension, that newfound self-awareness, it served as a catalyst for a multitude of changes. In my art, my outlook towards life, even in dealing with my fears. Overcoming my addiction wasn't a one-day process, but that solitude made it possible to take those initial steps towards recovery. It was in those silent moments of introspection and reflection, in the quiet of the night, that I found my happiness.
Suyeon, you beautifully explained how solitude was instrumental in your recovery and contributed to your happiness. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Solitude is often linked with fears such as loneliness and anxiety. How did you deal with these fears?
Honestly, Victoria, everyone would be lying if they said they didn't feel fear or anxiety when they are alone. I was no different. I felt the same anxiety when I moved to Seoul. But over time, I learned to channel that nervous energy into something positive. I channeled it into art, my work, exploring the city, I realized that the power to change the narrative was in my hands.
Just how did you manage to shift that fear into acceptance, Suyeon?
It wasn't easy, Mia. I began by acknowledging the fear rather than suppressing it. Instead of trying to fit in, I embraced my uniqueness, my solitude. Art helped as well. It was therapeutic. It allowed me to express my fears and doubts in a non-judgmental environment. Before I knew it, I was not just tolerating the solitude, but actively seeking it.
That's a fascinating transition, Suyeon, turning something that initially brings discomfort into a safe haven. It reminds me of my own experience when I first started practicing yoga and meditation. The silence felt awkward and unsettling. We're so used to noise and distractions that the absence of it feels strange. But slowly, I could see its value. It gave me the space to introspect, to drown out the external distractions and focus on my well-being.
I love how you both highlight the importance of reframing our perception around solitude. Being alone doesn't equate to loneliness. Rather, it brings us closer to ourselves, allowing for self-love and growth. Every person's path in dealing with solitude is unique, but there's comfort in knowing that we can find ways to turn even supposed negatives into positives. It's a testament to our enduring human spirit.
Mia, dealing with an eating disorder in solitude, wasn't that at times terrifying?
Absolutely, Victoria. There were times when I felt incredibly overwhelmed. It felt like I was caught in this vicious cycle, where I'd anxiously binge, then desperately try to regain control. Solitude became a disturbing accomplice.
That does sound tough, but you're here, balanced and doing great. How were you able to triumph over this fear?
Much like Suyeon's method of embracing fear, I had to acknowledge it. I started reframing my thoughts around solitude. Far from being my accomplice, I chose to see it as an opportunity to address the underlying fear and anxiety fueling my disorder. I placed more emphasis on self-care.
Intriguing. Practically seeing solitude as a safe space for self-care.
Yes, whether that was reading, skincare, or simply taking time to just breathe. Setting boundaries and being mindful of my solitude was a game changer.
I can resonate with that, Mia, especially when it came to my own experience with drug addiction. Dealing with withdrawal and solitude was initially a living nightmare.
Did you draw on your passion for art to navigate through those difficult times?
I actually did. I started creating art out of my despair and loneliness, projecting my fears onto a canvas. It felt like a release, a catharsis. Translating fear into creativity was my way of repurposing solitude into something positive. In it, I found strength and a sense of purpose.
Your courage and resilience are inspiring, Suyeon. Even in my own journey dealing with stress, I found that the tranquility I found in yoga and meditation helped subside those fears.
Seems like we all found our paths, using solitude as our stepping stone towards overcoming our fears, moving from the discomfort towards self-discovery, and managing our mental health issues.
On a deserted island, our solitary traveler discovered he was his own best friend. I must say, my experience mirrors that. While I've never been stranded on an island, I've often found myself alone navigating through a sea of deadlines, balancing silence with stormy thoughts of failure.
Victoria, you're so right. Solitude helps us realize our own potential. In moments of profound solitude and soul, I found enough courage and strength within me to embrace my fears and grow from them. In a way, they fueled my recovery and have shaped the person I am today.
Recovery in solitude, how fascinating, Suyeon. It seems solitude not only brings you closer to your own thoughts, but also molds you as a person.
Yes. And Suyeon, your experience of self-transformation in solitude is so intriguing. Something similar happened to me when I started seeing my solitary moments as a time for self-care, reading, and trying to combat my eating disorder.
Mia, your experience resonates with me. In my own journey, solitude served as an incubator for personal growth. At first, it felt like a struggle. However, as I embraced my solitude, my transformation was palpable. Art became my outlet, my means of communication. In this state of isolation, I realized how to channel my energy positively.
This makes solitude powerful. Listening to you both, I realize that solitude is like an accelerator for personal growth. It thrusts us into intense self-reflection, confronts us with our fears, and ultimately steers us towards growth. Whether it be through art, self-care, or managing the fear of failure, our personal experiences underscore the transformative potential of solitude. In solitude, we're like an untouched canvas waiting for strokes of self-discovery, resilience, and growth, don't you think?
Yes, Victoria. Our solitude is like the fertile soil beneath in which seeds of personal growth are planted. In my moments of solitude, I found the strength I didn't know I had, the ability to stand with courage, and ultimately the resilience to persist.
Mia, that's so well put. My trials in solitude initially felt overwhelming. Then I discovered street art. Each stroke felt like a mark of resilience, an expression of my voice. It was in solitude where I found my voice, loud and clear.
Drawing strength from solitude does seem like a common thread amongst us, but I'm curious how we make decisions when we're alone. Do you think solitude has an impact on our decision-making abilities?
I believe so, Victoria. In solitude, we are solely responsible for our choices. We can introspect deeply without external distractions clouding our judgment. This can lead to more well-thought-out decisions.
I agree, Mia. Solitude is like a training ground for decision-making. It helps us slow down, pay attention to our intuition, and gives us the space to make the best choices. So, yes, solitude fosters sound decision-making abilities.
And our experiences in solitude, they help us develop empathy, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, Victoria. Encountering my own internal struggles in solitude has made me more understanding towards others. It broadens our lens to empathize with different experiences.
Indeed, Mia, as someone who's navigated through solitude, it has given me a sense of profound empathy towards others going through similar experiences of isolation.
So we're saying, from the blank canvas of solitude, we have painted vivid portraits of resilience and made sound decisions, growing into empathetic beings. That's a wonderful sentiment. You know, reflecting in solitude is like stepping off the world's stage.
True, Victoria. It allows us to retreat into our minds and tune out the world. This can be especially significant for individuals like myself working in customer service.
Exactly, Mia. Solitude strips us off the social pressures for a while. It presents an opportunity to study our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings, unbiased and uninterrupted.
Victoria, while in solitude, one could argue we are our own toughest critics. Considering your experience with mental health issues, do you think this deep self-analysis can sometimes provoke negative thoughts?
It's a valid question, Suyeon. Yes, solitude can evoke self-criticism. But with mindfulness, we can guide our thoughts towards constructive self-reflection instead of destructive self-criticism, thus aiding us to cultivate a gentle understanding of our actions and feelings.
Victoria, that's enlightening. But it also makes me wonder, how can we ensure that our reflection in solitude remains a nurturing experience and not morph into constant self-judgment?
The answer, Mia, lies in practicing non-judgmental awareness during self-reflection. Being mindful of our thoughts without attributing them to right or wrong can help us do so.
It sounds natural yet challenging. Similar to creating graffiti, reflecting in solitude requires a certain level of letting go to truly benefit from it.
Indeed, Suyeon. It could possibly begin with the realization that we're not perfect and acknowledging that solitude provides a safe space to explore this imperfection.
So, can it be said that without solitude, we might never come face to face with our true raw selves?
That's remarkably put, Mia. The profound sense of self-awareness during tranquil solitude lays bare our true self. Thus, solitude gently unravels the layers we carry, leading us closer to self-discovery. The magic of solitude is the intimate encounter with oneself.
I would assume, Victoria. Solitude tunes out external stimuli, compelling us to delve into our thoughts.
Indeed, Mia. It immerses us into our deepest desires, wildest dreams, and hidden fears. It's an elemental journey of self-discovery.
Would you all agree that solitude is like a blank canvas where you confront and reinterpret your fears and fantasies?
I absolutely agree. And adding to that, Suyeon, solitude allows an unobstructed view of our inner self. We are granted the space to pause, reflect, and hopefully find peace with ourselves.
That's a beautiful perspective. I remember taking a weekend for myself without any distractions. It was a sincere confrontation. I was face to face with my anxieties. But through reflection, I found strategies to cope. Has one of you ever experienced something similar?
In Seoul, I would often spend my nights alone, painting or exploring clubs by myself. It was a bittersweet blend of loneliness and liberation, but that solitude helped me fight my addiction and understand my individuality better.
That's a compelling narrative, Suyeon. It only underscores that solitude, or shall we say self-reflection in solitude, is a potent tool for personal transformation. It encourages us to connect deep within, helping unravel our authentic selves. Mia, can you share certain ways you've used solitude to relax and self-reflect?
Definitely, Victoria. Something I've found helpful is setting a time each day for solitude. It forms a routine. I usually take a few moments at dawn or dusk to sit alone, without my phone or any other distraction.
I like that, Mia. Designating a time frame. I think solitude is also about location. Finding a space, whether it's a room, a garden, or even a city skyline at night that you connect with emotionally. Somewhere private where you can embrace solitude without fear.
True, Suyeon. Your environment can have a major effect on the quality of your solitude. I also encourage incorporating mindfulness practices. I personally find yoga and meditation calming. The simple act of observing your thoughts without judgment can be soothing.
Another practical advice I would add is to establish an open dialogue with yourself during these solitary times. Vocalizing your thoughts and feelings out loud can provide clarity and make your alone time more productive.
Investing in a hobby or passion can also help. For me, it was graffiti art, something that challenges you but also allows you to express freely.
We all seem to agree that cultivating a positive perception of solitude is essential. Thanks, Mia and Suyeon, for adding such insightful tips.
What about trying something creative? It's a way of channeling your inner thoughts and emotions. For me, it was graffiti art. Is there an activity you've always wanted to explore?
That's an interesting point, Suyeon. It reminds me of the time I started my skincare routine. It was originally a way to relax after work, but now it's a meditative process that also helps my self-confidence.
I agree. During my solitude, I've developed a deep connection with yoga. Not only is it a physical workout, but it also affords me the opportunity to silence my mind and be present. Plus, multiple studies show that regular yoga practice helps in reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety.
That's inspiring, Victoria. I think it goes to show that solitude is also about transformation and self-improvement. It guides you to harness your inner strengths and explore your capabilities.
True. Solitude for me isn't about hiding from the world, but stepping back to respond more thoughtfully and sincerely. Whether it's yoga, skincare, or graffiti art, these are forms of self-expression, self-care, and essentially self-love. Each of us has resolved to use solitude as a platform for betterment, and that's empowering.
Absolutely. Using solitude as a springboard can help us better understand our values, needs, and desires, shaping us to become a more refined version of ourselves. Let's always remember to be patient with ourselves during this journey.
Solitude is a journey with ourselves for ourselves, so using each moment in solitude to enhance our well-being can make it more productive, peaceful, and enjoyable. As we close the covers on today's tale, I can't help but think again about that solitary traveler. In the heart of the island, isolation wasn't a sentence to endure, but an opportunity to soak in, to be with oneself and perceive the world from within.
Exactly, Victoria. The beauty of that tale lies in the transformative journey the traveler undertook. Just being with oneself, left to navigate your thoughts and feelings without judgment or distraction, it's a potent reminder of our own might and capacity to adapt.
And let's not forget the silver lining in those moments of solitude. It allowed him to practice introspection, leading him to understand better his values, his joys, his fears, a pathway to a more authentic self.
That's it, isn't it? Solitude offers you a mirror, one that reflects not just who you are, but who you could be. It's uncanny how isolation, often portrayed as something bleak, can turn out to be a catalyst for self-understanding and true happiness.
We tend to fear solitude because it plunges us into the heart of things, our fears, our pain, our desires. But on the other side of that darkness is a clear, calming light.
Exactly, Victoria. We can't ignore the fact that solitude brings its share of struggles. The key lies in embracing these moments, seeing them as opportunities for growth. It becomes a meditation, an exercise in self-understanding.
Well said, Mia. This solitary journey isn't about finding an escape, but rather opening ourselves to reality, discovering that even in the harshest of storms, we have an anchor within us, a tranquility we can tap into.
And I think this loops us back to the traveler. Despite his initial struggle, he found peace within isolation, a peace that didn't come from escaping reality, but from embracing it. And in this peace, he found his strength, his contentment, his fulfillment.
In total agreement, Victoria. Let's remember that solitude can also be a journey of unfolding, a journey of unveiling the layers we've put up, a journey of seeking and finding our true selves.